This book, Nicomachean Ethics, was actually written as the first volume of kind of a 2-volume set. The sequel to this book is a book called Politics. And by and large, this book stands alone. Nicomachean Ethics does. But I do think that there are a couple of things that will pop up later on in Politics that will actually be helpful for understanding some of the things going on in Nicomachean Ethics. After all, Aristotle has told you from the very beginning that Nicomachean Ethics is intended primarily for students of politics, for students of political science, people who want to go on to make laws and govern communities correctly. And so the entire book is then in some way lead up, kind of groundwork for then really thinking more properly about politics and proper governance. In fact, at the very end of Nicomachean Ethics, we'll see Aristotle will say, we're finally ready to get started. And getting started then means, now let's finally move on to politics. I know none of this seems fair. You've been given Nicomachean Ethics, you're just working your way through the first half of that book, and now I'm telling you, you can't even understand this stuff unless you've already read the sequel. I'm not trying to go quite that far, but it turns out that a lot of these ideas that Aristotle will go on to maybe explain a little bit more clearly and carefully are already built in here into this first book. I think you see that in Book 1, Chapter 7, where Aristotle tells you that happiness should be self-sufficient, but humans never are, right? Happiness is the only thing you need in order to be happy, but it's not like I need to be self-sufficient in order to be happy. And in fact, people, humans, we're never self-sufficient. We always need other human beings. And furthermore, you see it in the mentions from the very first page of political science. The fact that all along Aristotle keeps saying, listen, this is about building better communities. You already see him building this idea that happiness may be the greatest good for me, but there's an even greater good, and that's happiness for all of us. So what I want to do is I just want to take a look at just a couple of things that are going to pop up later on in politics that might help us understand what's going on in Nicomachean Ethics, and especially in this section on justice. Aristotle will open up politics by saying that every community has a purpose. And this shouldn't surprise you given what we've already seen about Aristotle, right? Everything has a purpose. People have a purpose. And of course, the good for a person is to fulfill that purpose well. In the same way, the good of a community is to fulfill its purpose well. Well, now what is the purpose of a community? Another way of asking that question, why as humans do we live in communities? And in fact, the idea that's really ultimately going to separate Aristotle from a lot of the very similar liberal philosophy that will come up a couple thousand years later, Aristotle's actually going to say we don't choose to form communities to pursue some common purpose, the way we do under the social contract in liberalism. But rather, we exist naturally in communities, in social communities. It's our natural habitat. Aristotle will actually call human beings, define the human being as zoon politikon, the political animal. Now I want to come back to that political claim, not just the social animal, not just the communal animal. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But we exist naturally in communities, Aristotle says. Now, why is that? He will say, if you can exist outside of a community, you're either a beast or a god. Humans, though, we're somewhere in between, neither animals like the rest, nor yet gods, but something in the middle. We need communities. And now why is that? I want you to imagine that you are stranded on a desert island somewhere. It's just you, the beach, the sea, maybe a volleyball for company. And I want you to think about what your life is now like. What do you spend every waking moment doing? Well, you've got to somehow find or collect or create potable water. You've got to find, gather, catch food. You've got to build and rebuild shelter. You've got to find something to cover yourself with. You're going to spend all of your time tending fire and rebuilding shelter and staying out of the elements and getting water and getting food and just every waking moment just surviving. Now, first of all, what do we call something that spends every waking moment just staying alive? That's an animal. But more than that, I want you to think about whether or not you've got time for things like virtue, time for things like pursuing happiness, for living a fulfilling life, for expanding upon your capabilities, for being bigger and better than you were yesterday. Of course not. You are way too busy just staying alive. And so here's the important point. If you are living all by yourself, if you are forced to be totally self-sufficient, you don't have time to live a properly human life. You have maxed out just staying alive and fulfilling your animal needs. What's required in order for us to live proper, fulfilling human lives is living together in community with other people. We rely on other people and other people rely on us. We work together. We split up labor. We do various tasks. We help keep each other alive. And that's why we've got the time for things like reading and study. It's why we've got the time for things like athletics and entertainment. It's why we've got the time to develop our virtues and focus on ourselves and self-actualization and getting better. Now, what does it mean to call man the political animal? Zoon politikon, not just social, not just communal, the political. Well, he says that the sign of this is the fact that we have logos. Now, logos, the ancient Greek word here, can actually be properly translated in two very different ways, at least two very different ways. The one is reason. And so once again, we are the rational animal, right? We're not just like goldfish and hedgehogs. We can think, we can reason, we have intellectual pursuits. But furthermore, logos can also be translated as speech or the word. And so in fact, the sign that we are the animal with logos is the fact that we don't just make noises at one another the way animals do. Aristotle says animals have voice, but humans have speech. Animals have voice. A dog can growl at another dog or yap at another dog. Cats make that sort of weird moaning sound at one another. Birds tweet at one another. And through this, animals can express an awful lot, right? You know if a dog is angry or scared or happy to see you. You know if a cat is hungry or upset about something that you did. You know generally what an animal is feeling and whether or not it wants you to be close to it. And you can communicate a whole lot just through voice. But notice what you can't communicate. There are all of these abstract ideas that you can't express by just grunts and growls and smiles and moans. To think about things like philosophy, to think about things like history and mathematics, to do literature, and furthermore, notice that our ability to speak to one another gives us a whole other way of making decisions. If you and I are trying to come to an agreement, I don't have to just grunt and beat my chest and try to intimidate you into doing what I want, and I don't have to just smile and shrug and do whatever you want. You can say, I want to do something different than you, and I can say, well, here is why I want to do what I want us to do. And I can lay out my reasons, and you can listen to my reasons, and you can say, okay, that's a good reason. I hadn't thought of that. But meanwhile, I have this reason for not accepting what you've said. And you and I can actually discuss back and forth, and we can come to a group decision. One of us doesn't have to win. The other one doesn't have to lose. We can compromise. We can reach a decision together. And furthermore, neither one of us has to force the other one to go along, right? If we've come to a group decision, you have changed your mind, I have changed my mind. We now set our minds to a common purpose. That process, that's politics. At least properly speaking, right? I mean, a whole lot passes for politics these days, of course. But if you go down to its roots, and Aristotle, of course, writing here during the really last generation of the Greek invention of democracy, Aristotle recognizes the heart of politics as not backstabbing each other or fundraising or cheering for our side, but rather group decision making. You and I, we can decide together what we ought to do, and that also means that you and I and all of our neighbors can come together to decide what to do. That's the process of politics, and when Aristotle calls us the political animal, this really is then what he means. We can express ourselves through speech, we can reason together, and in that way make decisions as a group. And in fact, it is a group of people reasoning together that Aristotle defines as a community. He says a political community is a group of people who share a logos, share reason, share speech with one another. We give and take reasons. We have ideas about what count as good reasons and count as bad reasons. We're willing to listen to one another. So of course, here's the important point. If I am outside of a community of people, I cannot pursue proper human happiness. I cannot pursue virtue. I cannot pursue self-actualization. I have to spend all of my time just staying alive. The best life available to me is simply a good animal life. It is only if I am in community with other human beings that I have the possibility of living a proper human life. And here, of course, is the purpose of a human community. A human community, we exist in community with one another to allow us to be human. Humans only really get to be human when we live in community with other humans. And so what that means is that if the purpose of community is to allow us to be human together, then a good community, a proper community, is a community that allows and indeed encourages its members to become excellent and happy. A community that prevents you from becoming excellent is a bad community. A community that takes the responsibility, the ability to be happy out of your hands is a bad community. A community that rewards its unvirtuous members and punishes its virtuous members is a bad community. A good community will allow me to be virtuous, and it will make sure that my virtue matches up with my fulfillment. And furthermore, a good community will make sure that when I step out of line, there are consequences that will help catch me and steer me back onto the good path. I start to mess up, consequences kick in, I recognize that I've gone wrong, and I right myself. And so now this is going to be really important for looking back at the moral virtue of justice. Because as we'll see, Aristotle will start with this idea of justice as a moral virtue like any other, like courage, like patience, like generosity, but he's very quickly going to shift his focus from personal justice, the moral virtue of justice, to justice as it exists in a community. And that is so important because it's only within a properly just community that each of us, as members of that community, really has the proper chance to live up to our potential. And furthermore, the fact that we need human communities is going to really then ground all of the rest of the moral virtues. Because at the end of the day, I can build good habits, habits that are good for me. I can build ways of living that help me thrive. But I don't care how I treat other people, and there's no reason I should care how I treat other people if ultimately I don't need them. On the other hand, though, if I do need those other people, if I need a community of people around me to allow me the chance to be properly human myself, then now I have a good self-interested reason for treating those other people well. I've got to make sure that I am dealing with them properly, rightly. I have to worry about the strength of my community, because if my community goes bad, there goes my chances of happiness. And so personal justice is going to be so important, in part because it fosters group justice, the good community. And that again is why, at the end of the day, Nicomachean Ethics, it's a great handbook for you and me to try to be happy, but more importantly, Aristotle says, this book should be read by political science students, students of politics, people who want to make better laws and help rule better communities, help run better communities. We have to know what makes people happy in order to know how we can set up communities to encourage that.